What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's your friend, the neighborhood, Mr. Reese. I want to take a second and I'm gonna start doing these little videos, just kind of talking about different topics. And one of the things I want to talk about today is ethics. I believe that men need ethics. And I think it can be said any simpler than that. I mean, we live in a world right now that has told us that there's no such thing as absolute ethics. There's no such thing as absolute truth. We live in this world of postmodernism and relative ideology where basically what I believe is true and that there is no wrong and right or any of those things. And I think what that does is it devolves us down into beast. It makes us primitive. There's a quote, and I have a blog post you should go check out where I talk about how, there's a quote that says, without ethics, man is a wild beast unleashed on the world. And I think that's where we are in today's society. We see a world that is just going so crazy. And I think one of the simple reasons is because we've absconded from the idea of ethics, of having a code, a standard by which we hold ourselves to. I mean, without those things, without having a bar or a standard or a barrier, then what happens? The ocean runs free. I mean, we look at a river, that's why they put a dam up, right? They put that up to keep the river from flowing wildly and wiping out everything in its path. And I think that men are much the same. Men need those boundaries. Men need to have a dam so they're primitive. The waves of their primitive and instinct doesn't take over and we end up destroying everything in our path, And I wrote this down. I teach kids, and there's a youth group, a young men's group that I mentor. And I wrote this, I had this thought, and I wrote this down. It says, the difference between men and beasts is very simple. Beasts think, but then they act on how they feel. Whereas men feel, but then choose to think before they act. And I think that's where a code of standards, a code of ethics comes in play. You figure back in the day, back in the olden days, the warriors, they stood for something. They had honor, they had courage, they had commitment, they had a code that they stood by. They used to say things like death before dishonor. And I think that in itself is such a lost art. I mean, we don't even believe in being honorable anymore. We don't believe in any of those things. There is no more care for the human man, for the man himself. I think humanity has unfortunately lost our ethics, lost our morals, and we've lost the foundation by which we build a society upon. So I say all that to say it is important that you have a code of ethics. Because I think without a code of ethics, you are simply a runaway train. You have all this power, you have all this potential, but if you don't have any rails on the tracks, then what happens is that train is going to run off the rails and go crazy. And I think we need that. So why should you have ethics? Because it's necessary. So I would challenge you, take the time to sit down and ask yourself, what is it that you believe? What is it that you stand for? What is your standard? I know for me, a few of mine are character, honor, optimism, strength, excellence, and nobility. If you didn't notice, that represents chosen. That's just a part of my 10 ethics, but it's chosen because we are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation. So I think that in order for us to be royal, royalty has certain royal rules and regulations that they adhere to. And so for us, in order to get the society back, is we have to represent a standard by which the society says does not exist. We have to create it. You dig? So that's just a couple of thoughts on ethics. All right, peace.